Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Midday Prime. I'm Gautam Roy. Over the next 1 hour, we'll bring you up to speed with all the day's latest so far from within the country as well as outside, and also the latest from business and sports too. We'll tell you all about it, how the President led the nation in celebrating Constitution Day today, and we'll also get you the latest on the global impact of the new COVID variant first found in South Africa. But first, the big news of the hour. President Ram Nath Kovind leads the nation in celebrating the Constitution Day. Vice President, Lok Sabha Speaker, Prime Minister address the gathering. President says a developmental journey of India has been progressing on the strength of our Constitution. Also says elected representatives of Gram Sabhas, legislative assemblies and parliament should aim to ensure the welfare of the common man. On the occasion of Constitution Day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi expresses concern over dynastic politics. Also says people should perform their duties as rights are protected only by their duties. The 13th anniversary of Mumbai terror attacks is being observed across the country today. President Ram Nath Kovind, Prime Minister Modi, Union Ministers Amit Shah, Rajnath Singh, Dr. S. Jaishankar paid tributes to those who lost their lives in the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks. The centre reiterates its commitment to its flagship scheme MG Narega. So far, more than 68,568 crore rupees have been released during the current financial year. This is an increase of over 18% as far as the allocation goes. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will chair the 18th meeting of the Foreign Ministers of Russia, India and China. They'll discuss further strengthening of the trilateral cooperation, including exchange of views on various regional and international issues of importance. The United Kingdom registers highest number of COVID-19 cases in Europe, suspends flights to 6 African countries as a new COVID variant emerges. And in sports, on day 2 of the first test match between India and New Zealand, hosts ride on debutant Shreyash Iyer's 100 to get bowled out for 345 runs. And let's first now get you the big news of the hour. The nation is celebrating Constitution Day today to commemorate the adoption of the Constitution of India by the Constituent Assembly in 1949. Constitution Day celebrations took place in the Central Hall of Parliament. President Ram Nath Kovind, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla and others took part in the event. The observation of Constitution Day started in 2015 based on the vision of Prime Minister to give due recognition to the significance of this historic date. The roots of this vision can also be traced back to Samvidhan Gaurav Yatra organized by then Gujarat Chief Minister Narendra Modi in 2010. And on the occasion, the President also released the digital version of the Constituent Assembly debates, digital version of calligraphed copy of Constitution of India, an updated version of the Constitution of India that will include all amendments till date. The President also inaugurated online quiz on constitutional democracy. And also on the occasion, President Kovind asserted that the opposition is the most important element of any democracy. He said that the government and the opposition, despite their differences, must continue to work together in the best interest of all citizens.
वास्तव में लोकतंत्र का सर्वाधिक महत्वपूर्ण तत्व है। सच तो यह है कि प्रभावी प्रतिपक्ष के बिना लोकतंत्र निष्प्रभावी हो जाता है। सरकार और प्रतिपक्ष अपने मतभेदों के बावजूद नागरिकों के सर्वोत्तम हितों के लिए मिलकर काम करते रहें, यही अपेक्षा की जाती है। हमारे संविधान निर्माताओं ने ऐसी ही परिकल्पना की थी और राष्ट्र निर्माण के लिए यही आवश्यक भी है।
The President also said that democratic development of India in a short span of almost 7 decades has stunned many.
लगभग 7 दशक की अल्प अवधि में ही भारत के लोगों ने लोकतांत्रिक विकास की एक ऐसी अद्भुत गाथा लिख दी जिसने समूची दुनिया को विस्मित कर दिया। मैं ये मानता हूं कि भारत की ये विकास यात्रा हमारे संविधान के बल पर ही आगे बढ़ती जा रही है। हमारे संविधान में वे सभी उदात्त आदर्श समाहित हैं जिनके लिए विश्व के लोग भारत की ओर सम्मान और आशा भरी दृष्टि से देखते हैं। हम भारत के लोग, इन शब्दों से आरंभ होने वाले हमारे संविधान से ये स्पष्ट हो जाता है कि भारत का संविधान लोगों की आकांक्षाओं की सामूहिक अभिव्यक्ति है।
President Kovind also said that our parliament is a temple of democracy and therefore it becomes the responsibility of every parliamentarian to behave there as they do in their places of worship.
पक्ष और प्रतिपक्ष के सदस्यों में प्रतिस्पर्धा होना स्वाभाविक है, लेकिन यह प्रतिस्पर्धा बेहतर प्रतिनिधि बनने और जन कल्याण के लिए बेहतर काम करने की होनी चाहिए, तभी इसे स्वस्थ प्रतिस्पर्धा माना जाएगा। संसद में प्रतिस्पर्धा को प्रतिद्वंद्विता नहीं समझा जाना चाहिए। हम सब लोग ये मानते हैं कि हमारी संसद लोकतंत्र का मंदिर है, अतः हर सांसद की ये जिम्मेदारी बन जाती है कि वे लोकतंत्र के इस मंदिर में श्रद्धा की उसी भावना के साथ आचरण करें जिसके साथ वे अपने पूजा गृहों और इबादत गाहों में भी करते हैं।
After his address, the President read the preamble of the Constitution and the nation joined him in that exercise.
समाजवादी पंथ ने लोकतंत्रात्मक गणराज्य बनाने के लिए तथा उसके समस्त नागरिकों को और राजनैतिक न्याय, विचार, अभिव्यक्ति, विश्वास
Also addressing the gathering, the Vice President said that it has been our firm belief that people have been at the center of our development.
I pay my gratitude to the President of the Constituent Assembly, Dr. Rajendra Prasad ji, Chairman of the Drafting Committee, Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar ji, and the members of the Constituent Assembly for providing direction for nation building. Their overreaching framework continues to guide us in the collective endeavor of our nation to scale new heights amidst the contemporary national and international challenges. Our Constitution, in essence, is a statement of values, ideas, ideals, seeking to ensure justice, liberty, and equality for all in the true spirit of fraternity, and is a guide to peaceful democratic transformation.
And during his address in Parliament, Prime Minister Modi said on Constitution Day that this is the day to salute this house where many of India's leaders brainstormed to give us the Constitution of India. He added that we should pay tribute to all those who fought during India's independence struggle.
आज का दिवस बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर, डॉक्टर राजेंद्र प्रसाद जैसे दूरंदेशी महानुभावों को नमन करने का है। आज का दिवस इस सदन को प्रणाम करने का है, क्योंकि इसी पवित्र जगह पर महीनों तक भारत के विद्वज्जनों ने, एक्टिविस्टों ने देश के उज्जवल भविष्य के लिए व्यवस्थाओं को निर्धारित करने के लिए मंथन किया था। से संविधान रूपी अमृत हमें प्राप्त हुआ है, जिसने आजादी के इतने लंबे कालखंड के बाद हमें यहां पहुंचाया है।
The PM also said that if the constitution had to be prepared in present circumstances, it would have been a difficult task because for most of the political parties in the country, national interest is not supreme.
आज के संदर्भ में देखें तो पता नहीं संविधान का एक पेज भी हम पूरा कर पाते, क्योंकि नेशन फर्स्ट कालक्रम से राजनीति ने उस पर इतना प्रभाव पैदा कर दिया है कि देश हित भी कभी कभी पीछे छूट जाता है। ये उन महानुभावों को प्रणाम इसलिए करना चाहूंगा क्योंकि उनके भी अपने विचार होंगे, उनके विचारों की भी धारा होगी, उस धारा में धार भी होगी, लेकिन फिर भी राष्ट्रहित सुप्रीम होने के नाते सबने मिल बैठ करके एक संविधान दिया।
The PM also expressed concern over the politics of dynasty and the system of political parties in the country. The PM further said that they are a big threat to democracy and also against the spirit of the constitution.
भी बड़ा दिल रख करके खुले मन से बाबा साहब आम्बेडकर जैसे मनीषियों ने देश को जो दिया है, इसका पुण्य स्मरण करने की तैयारी न होना, ये भी एक चिंता का विषय है। साथियों, भारत एक संवैधानिक लोकतांत्रिक परंपरा है। राजनीतिक दलों का अपना एक अहम महत्व है और राजनीतिक दल भी हमारी संविधान की भावनाओं को जन जन तक पहुंचाने का एक प्रमुख माध्यम है। लेकिन संविधान की भावना को भी चोट पहुंची है। संविधान के एक एक धारा को भी चोट पहुंची है, जब राजनीतिक दल अपने आप में अपना लोकतांत्रिक कैरेक्टर खो देते हैं। जो दल स्वयं लोकतांत्रिक कैरेक्टर खो चुके हो, वो लोकतंत्र की रक्षा कैसे कर सकते हैं? आज देश में कश्मीर से कन्याकुमारी, हिंदुस्तान के हर कोने में जाइए, भारत एक ऐसे संकट की तरफ बढ़ रहा है जो संविधान को समर्पित लोगों के लिए चिंता का विषय है, लोकतंत्र के प्रति आस्था रखने वालों के लिए चिंता का विषय है, और वो है पारिवारिक पार्टियां।
The PM also said that after independence, there was such a trend in the country in which rights were not given importance. He added that people should perform their duties as rights are protected only by the performance of duties.
कर्तव्यों की तरफ महात्मा गांधी लगातार देश को तैयार करते रहे, लेकिन आजादी के बाद महात्मा गांधी ने जो कर्तव्य के बीज बोए थे, वो आजादी के बाद वटवृक्ष बन जाने चाहिए थे, लेकिन दुर्भाग्य से शासन व्यवस्था ऐसी बनी कि उसने अधिकार 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 के ही बातें करके लोगों को एक ऐसी अवस्था में रखा कि हम हैं तो आपके अधिकार पूरे होंगे। अच्छा होता देश आजाद होने के बाद कर्तव्य पर बल दिया गया होता तो अधिकारों की अपने आप रक्षा होती।
Let's also now quickly bring to you what Constitution Day is all about. Well, it is, of course, what we're talking about is the significance of Constitution Day. If you look at what happened on the 26th of November, well, it was a landmark day for all Indians and it remains every year. On the 26th of November 1949, the Constituent Assembly formally adopted the Indian Constitution. Now, this Constitution gives us status of free citizens in a free nation. The Constitution's fundamental rights serve as a shield for the rights of all Indians. Fundamental duties, on the other hand, remind all citizens of their responsibilities. Constitution Day is being celebrated since 2015. It's a recent occurrence that it started being celebrated. Before that, it was Law Day. The Modi government institutionalized the practice of celebrating Constitution Day. The day is meant for promoting of constitutional values among citizens. 2015 also marked the 125th birth anniversary of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Bhimrao Ambedkar. Dr. Ambedkar is regarded as the father of Indian Constitution, and Dr. Ambedkar was also the chairperson of the Constitution Drafting Committee. He was also the first law minister of independent India. Now, the Indian Constitution is the lengthiest written constitution anywhere in the world. It took 2 years, 11 months and 18 days to be finalized. On the 26th of January 1950, the Indian Constitution came into effect, and that's when we also celebrate Republic Day. The original copy of the Constitution of India was handwritten by Prem Bihari Narayan Raizada. The original copy was written in flowing italic style, and this was over a period of 6 months. Each page of the Indian Constitution was embellished by Shantiniketan artists. Original copies of the Indian Constitution were both handwritten in Hindi and English. The calligraphy of the Hindi version of the original Constitution was done by Vasant Krishan Vaidya. And the Constitution was also signed by 284 Constituent Assembly members on the 24th of January 1950. So, which is why we celebrate this day as Constitution Day. It gives us almost the free air that we breathe. Now, addressing the event marking Constitution Day in Parliament, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla said that the Constitution is like modern Gita that inspires us to work for the nation. He added that if each one of us devotes to the nation's service, then we can build Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat.
हमारा संविधान आधुनिक गीता की तरह है, जो हमें निरंतर कार्य करने की प्रेरणा देता है और राष्ट्र के प्रति अपने कर्तव्यों को बोध भी कराता है। यदि हम सब जनप्रतिनिधि, नागरिक, सभी संस्थाएं अपने कर्तव्यों को सामूहिकता के साथ पूरा करने का संकल्प लें, तो प्रत्येक देशवासी के जीवन को बेहतर बनाते हुए एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत को साकार कर सकते हैं।
And Union Minister for Parliamentary Affairs Prahlad Joshi, speaking during an event to celebrate Constitution Day in Parliament, said that the Constitution is a dynamic and sacred document providing fundamental rights and duties to citizens.
हम ये भी जानते हैं, संविधान एक मूलभूत और गतिशील पवित्र ग्रंथ और दस्तावेज है, जो राज्य के नीति निर्देशक सिद्धांतों की मौलिक अधिकार और सबसे महत्वपूर्ण मौलिक कर्तव्य के माध्यम से देश का शासन व्यवस्था चलाता है।
Earlier, tributes were paid to eminent parliamentarian and former Lok Sabha Speaker Ravi Rai on his birth anniversary as well today. In a special program organized in Parliament, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla and Rajya Sabha Deputy Chairperson Harivansh, including several MPs and officials, paid floral tributes to Ravi Rai. And on this Constitution Day, listen to rare original audio of Constituent Assembly speeches exclusively from our archives 1946 to 1949. Dr. Raju.
हिंद वासियों ने त्याग और तप से स्वतंत्रता हासिल कर ली है.
In the course of the debate that took place, there were two questions which were raised.
I, Vallabhbhai Patel, do solemnly affirm that in the office of minister, I believe in the checkered history of our country. We have passed many resolutions.
Sir, in the absence of Srimati Sarojini Naidu, सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा.
Dr. Rajendra Prasad was one who presided over the Indian Constituent Assembly from 1946 to 49 and helped shape the Constitution. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was appointed the chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution on the 29th of August 1947. Dr. Ambedkar believed that the Constitution should be used as a tool for social reformation and that it would help in equalizing the gap between different classes. Purushottam Das Tandon, also known as Rajarshi, was a member of the Constituent Assembly that drafted India's Constitution as well. And let's now get
जब हिंद वासियों ने त्याग और तप से स्वतंत्रता हासिल कर ली है, मैं जो इस विधान परिषद का एक सदस्य हूं, अपने को बड़ी नम्रता से हिंद और वासियों की सेवा के लिए अर्पण करता हूं.
There shall be two different sets of polity. One at the bottom, the autonomous provinces or the states or such other areas as care to join a united India. These autonomous units will have full powers. They will have also residuary powers. That this Constituent Assembly, although it is a British creation for the time being, but once it comes into existence, it has the power, if it has the will, to assert its right and to do what is best and proper for the good of the people of India, irrespective of caste, creed or community.
यह बात हिंद के बारे में, भारत के बारे में खास तौर पर कही जा सकती है कि हमने अपने कुल तारीख में, अपने इतिहास में इस बात की कोशिश नहीं की कि हम जबरदस्ती दूसरे मुल्कों में जाकर उनको अपने कब्जे में करें और उनसे फायदा उठाकर हम अपनी जनता के पास कुछ रोटी पहुंचाने का इंतजाम करें.
Okay, so now we move on to our developing story. Okay, today is also the anniversary of the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, and on the occasion Prime Minister Modi said that the nation is commemorating Samvidhan Divas today, but the nation should not forget the brave hearts who countered the 26/11 Mumbai terror attackers and the ones who lost their lives. Speaking on the occasion, the PM paid heartfelt tributes to all brave soldiers of the country who sacrificed their lives while fighting during the 26/11 terror attacks in Mumbai.
आज 26/11 हमारे लिए एक ऐसा दुखद दिवस जब देश के दुश्मनों ने देश के भीतर आकर के मुंबई में वह ऐसी आतंकवादी घटना को अंजाम दिया भारत के संविधान में सूचित देश के सामान्य मानवीय की रक्षा की जिम्मेवारी के तहत अनेक हमारे वीर जवानों ने उन आतंकवादियों से लोहा लेते लेते अपने आप को समर्पित कर दिया, सर्वोच्च बलिदान दिया। मैं आज 26/11 को उन सभी बलिदानियों को भी आदरपूर्वक नमन करता हूं।
Yes, today also marks 13 years since the deadly 26/11 terror attacks in Mumbai. On the evening of the 26th of November 2008, a group of 10 Pakistan-trained terrorists landed near a colony of fisherfolk at Cuff Parade on Mumbai's southern coast. Armed with automatic machine guns and grenades, they attacked with military precision multiple carefully selected buildings in South Mumbai. Places that were attacked were the crowded Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus, railway station and the nearby Kama and Alblas hospitals, 2 5-star hotel complexes, the Taj Palace at Colaba and the Trident Oberoi at Nariman Point, Leopold Cafe, a popular restaurant in Colaba, and Chabad House, a Jewish synagogue, also in Colaba. The siege of Mumbai that started on the 26th of November ended 3 days later. Security personnel led by National Security Guard commandos countered the attackers and killed 8 terrorists, while 1 was killed by the Mumbai police. The 10th terrorist, 25-year-old Ajmal Amir Kasab, was caught alive. Kasab was captured, tried and sentenced to death by a Mumbai court. Now, President Ramnath Kovind paid tributes to the martyrs as well. In a tweet, he said, and I quote, "My heartfelt tributes to the martyrs and homage to the victims of 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks. The nation will always be grateful for the bravery and sacrifice of the security forces who laid down their lives in the line of duty." Defence Minister Rajnath Singh also tweeted, and I quote, "On the 13th anniversary of the November 26 terror attacks in Mumbai, we remember the innocent lives we lost." While External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar tweeted, and I quote again, "Never forget," along with a picture of the Taj Hotel where the attack took place. And tributes were also paid at Mumbai Commissionerate office by the Maharashtra Governor, that's Bhagat Singh Koshyari, and others. Let me now take you across to Yogesh Sheetal, my colleague and correspondent who's joining us on the phone line from Mumbai. Yogesh, it is a very, very grave day, a day which we recall in terms of how India was so stealthily and so surreptitiously and so cowardly attacked, but we managed to respond to this kind of a challenge, and we had all the terrorists neutralized or captured within 3 days.
All right, Gautam, you have rightly named all the places which were basically on the soft target. Leopold Cafe, CST, also Taj Hotel, Oberoi, Trident, Kama, Nariman House. So you have rightly named all these places. I think this was not only the attack on particular on Mumbai, but also India, a country, and also the of India, because basically India, which is known for Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, India always has been welcoming all the people from across the world, and the basic target was people and also people from foreign origin. So Leopard Cafe. So basically, the Pakistan originated terrorists, they were trying to target the foreigners and to keep a clear message to the world across the globe that India is not a safe country. Unfortunately, you may say, or for them unfortunately, in fact, they couldn't succeed because later on, entire world stood by the country, by India, and also we have seen that a lot of intelligence from other countries, we have seen in 2016 when David Headley was convicted in America on the terrorism charge, multiple cases. They have American deposed David Headley to Indian court through video conferencing in 2016. And he made number of revelations, including how Pakistani ISI and also the top officials are directly involved in the attack. They were directing, they were giving instructions that what they have to do, what the precautions that they are likely to take. And also, David Headley said that 2 attempts were failed because they had carried out Reiki 2 times prior to the attack, but he couldn't succeed it. A lot of things unfolded, not here, but also on the taking it a broad perspective. A lot of things were how Pakistan is functioning and how the terrorists and the state are interlinked when it comes to committing damage to country India. Now, after 2000 attack, I think number of things have changed on the ground level, also part and also the administration part. The police is now more strong. Force 1 has been inducted, like Mumbai police have already in constant sale, narcotics sale, crime branch also, and also economic offense wing. So on the same line, Force 1 has been included in the Mumbai police as a separate wing which is totally dedicated to counter-terrorism. This is very important thing. Other thing also, amphibian boats have been provided to Mumbai police. Also, there are also CCTV coverage. Earlier there was no CCTV in the coastal area. Now they are there. CST station, which was one of the prime targets of the Fidayeen attacker. Also, detectors have been installed now there. You can see 24/7 people, security personnel are there also in civil dresses to ensure that intelligence, there should be no intelligence failure. Communication gap must not be, taking place, and the communication gap also between the center and the state. From my point of view and from Delhi, agencies coordination has been strengthened. So a lot of steps have been taken, and I think the city has restored now. But the people, they have lost their near ones. Obviously, I don't think it would be very easy for them to.
Naturally, that is something that no one would ever be able to forget, and the nation is also unwilling to forget, which is why all these steps have been taken after 26/11 happened, which have ensured that there have hardly been any terror attacks on the Indian mainland. There have been, of course, frequent attacks in Jammu and Kashmir and some parts of northeast as well. Very disturbing turn of events very recently there as well. But as far as the mainland is concerned, attacks have been almost next to none. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Yogesh Sheetal. Okay, now let's turn to a live input that we're getting right now. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman speaking at a CBDT event. Listen in.
34 तक पहुंचा है within in one state. In one state, COVID testing laboratories are now 434. फिर बेड्स का संख्या भी बढ़ाया गया इस दौरान. 1.8 लाख कोविड बेड्स आर अवेलेबल इन उत्तर प्रदेश अभी. इसीलिए सेकेंड वेव के समय में भी उत्तर प्रदेश का सुविधा में कुछ कमी नहीं था. जनता को ये सब उपलब्ध था. मैं इस मौके पर ये सब इसीलिए कह रही हूँ कि जब एक इलाके से ये प्रांत से टैक्स कलेक्शन इंप्रूव होता है, उसका असर तुरंत जनता में दिखने को मिलता है. फिर 555 oxygen plants have been approved and installed. 392 functional है. मतलब ये 555 से 392 अभी फंक्शनल है ऑक्सीजन प्लांट्स. फिर उत्तर प्रदेश में शायद 80 डिस्ट्रिक्ट है, उसमें 59 में कम से कम एक मेडिकल कॉलेज स्थापित हो चुका है और फंक्शनल भी है. तो फंक्शन. फिर प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना के तहत 42 लाख हाउसेस ऑलरेडी हैव बीन कंप्लीटेड उत्तर प्रदेश में. फिर एक और विषय मैं आपके सामने रखना चाहती हूँ. सीनियर सिटीजन हो, विडोज हो, दिव्यांग हो, डेस्टिट्यूट विमेन हो, इन सबको पेंशन विदाउट कुछ दिक्कत मिल रही है. वो 500 रुपीज 500 रुपया मंथली पेंशन 90 लाख लोगों को मिल रही है जो विडोज है, डिसेबल्ड है, या डेस्टिट्यूट विमेन है, उन सबको 90 लाख अब तक का संख्या 90 लाख लोगों को अभी तक ये 500 रुपया महीने का मिल रही है। फिर लास्ट एक और पॉइंट मैं आपके सामने रखना चाहती हूँ, एवरी विलेज, हर गांव और हर घर में बिजली पहुंच चुका है। इससे ज्यादा मैं एलैबोरेट नहीं करना चाहती हूँ, मगर डेवलपमेंटल एक्टिविटीज का ध्यान सरकार के पास होना चाहिए और वो इम्प्लीमेंट करने में मेहनत करना चाहिए और उसके लिए साधन भी होना चाहिए। वो साधन उपलब्ध करना हमारे कर्तव्य है, जो करदाता से हम केयरफुली कलेक्ट करके, इसमें बोलते हैं लोग प्रोवर्बियली, जैसे शहद को मधुमक्खी ले आता है विदाउट हर्टिंग द टैक्स पेयर, ले आना हमारे ड्यूटी है। इसमें मैं मानती हूँ कि हमारे ऑफिसर्स और स्टाफ particularly in the direct taxation area will work with careful attention. इसके अलावा जस्ट 3 और मुद्दे आपके सामने रखना चाहती हूँ। उत्तर प्रदेश में बहुत बड़े स्तर पर बहुत इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का एक्टिविटीज चल रही है। माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी उनके भाषण में जिक्र किए उसका। 16 तारीख नवंबर में आपको पूर्वांचल एक्सप्रेसवे का उद्घाटन हुआ माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के कर कमलों में से, और 19 नवंबर का महोबा में एक डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट 3 or 4 of them को प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने उद्घाटन किए, ऑफ विच वर मेजर साइज। देन ऑफ कोर्स साउथ एशिया's largest airport in Jewar. These are not possible unless tax collection improves and that is devolved to the states. Devolution अच्छा सा हो रही है। आपको मालूम है इस बार नवंबर 20 तारीख को जो डेवल्यूशन के तहत मिलना है स्टेट्स को, उससे द्विगुनी इसी बार 2 times the amount, an amount which is an installment to be paid in March have also been paid in advance to the states so that इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के ऊपर उनके खर्च में रुकावट पैदा ना हो। इसलिए पहले से ही हमने फ्रंट लोड करके मार्च के महीने में जो देने वाले इंस्टॉलमेंट है वो भी अभी ही दे रहे हैं। सो आई जस्ट कंग्रेचुलेट द CBDT and the Ministry of Finance for having taken this effort to get this building done। और मैं आभारी हूँ उत्तर प्रदेश के माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जो आज हमारे साथ आकर के हमारे इस बिल्डिंग को उद्घाटन करने के लिए उनके समय हमें दिया, उसके लिए उनके लिए मैं आभार व्यक्त करना चाहता हूँ। धन्यवाद।
So there you heard the Finance Minister talking about well, how tax collections really go to ensuring that benefits are accrued ultimately to the taxpayers, to the people of the country, and she was giving the example of Uttar Pradesh, how collections have improved over there, and because of which the government has been able to roll out a number of things, you know, from infrastructure projects to other beneficial things like pensions for the disabled and the destitute and women as well, and apart from that new hospitals that have been opened up in so many districts, and even oxygen plants during, you know, which were direly required in the second wave of COVID. All those things, the benefits that are being accrued, that's the point that she was trying to make, because people are paying taxes, and people from the CBDT have been collecting those taxes on behalf of the government without hurting the taxpayer too much. Now, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will be holding talks in the virtual format with a focus on key regional and global issues. The 18th RIC meeting being held under the Russia-India-China, that's what RIC stands for, trilateral framework, will be chaired by External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. The foreign ministers will be discussing further strengthening of the RIC trilateral cooperation, including exchange of views on various regional and international issues of importance, which also include the situation in Afghanistan. Under the RIC framework, the foreign ministers of the three countries meet periodically to discuss bilateral, regional and international issues of their interest. India took over the chairpersonship of the RIC after the last meeting of the trilateral in Moscow in September last year. Okay, let's quickly discuss, you know, what could really emerge from this RIC meeting which is being chaired by Dr. S. Jaishankar, our External Affairs Minister, Professor Sriram Cholia, noted foreign affairs expert, is with us. Good afternoon to you, Professor Cholia. What do you make of this juncture that the RIC meeting is taking place? Of course, there's Afghanistan and a lot of a scope for increasing cooperation between Russia, India and China, which took a little bit of a backseat ever since things went a little south in eastern Ladakh.
Yeah, I mean, the bilateral tension between China and India does weaken the prospects for this plurilateral or trilateral. So I think Russia is in a way centrally positioned because it has strong strategic ties with both China and India. And I think it's in Russia's interest to make sure that we have at least a working relationship at the trilateral level, because that helps Russia to project its own interests. And for us also, RIC is important for India. This has been going on for a long time, and we have stuck to this format because it helps that the three of us are meeting rather than just bilaterally between China and India, because Russia's presence helps us to what I call create a kind of a soft counterbalancing, and same in BRICS, where these three countries are also part of BRICS. So RIC is useful as a way to nudge forward and to try and find creative ways out of even the China-India bilateral conflict. Russia has been trying to play a kind of a soft mediator type of role. I mean, it's not really mediation, but it's facilitating and confidence building, trust building. And you're also right that apart from the bilateral problem that we have with China, there is the bigger challenge of Afghanistan for all three of us. It's a common challenge. And this is where none of our three countries has recognized the Taliban government, and all of us have channels open with them. China and Russia have embassies there in Kabul, and they are directly in touch with the Taliban. So I think we would also want regional consensus, which has been lacking and missing over how to deal with this new regime in Kabul and how to form a unified front to approach this new regime in terms of humanitarian assistance, in terms of the security threats of terrorism coming out of this country and the bordering country, which is Pakistan. So there are divergences in our approaches, but I think this is a useful format to have. I mean, if you don't have RIC, then we have to deal one-on-one with China on all issues of regional concern. And there, they bring in the Pakistani factor and becomes difficult for us to find any common ground. So having Russia in the middle, always useful to look for some kind of a consensus position on regional issues of great significance.
Certainly, and it's not just we've talked about Afghanistan, we've talked about even military ties that we have with Russia. Even China has them and is strengthening them with Russia as well. And in terms of responding to other global challenges, be it COVID-19 or even on the economic front, again RIC becomes very, very contextual and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, the recovery,
as well, for that matter.
all of us are making our own individual efforts. The bounce back in India is quite strong, and we are expecting a sustained high growth trajectory now with the positive reforms done by the Narendra Modi government. I think the Chinese have a different intention. This is always been the problem, because they want to expand their economic influence in a way that creates debt trap and loss of sovereignty, or even threatens the territorial integrity of other countries.
Yes.
Dr. Jaishankar just mentioned this on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, that we are not in favor of these connectivity corridors and projects like Belt and Road Initiative that vitiate the sovereignty of other countries and lead to, in fact, make regional disputes worse. So I think it's very important that Chinese adopt a more responsible position. We are not at all in alignment with the Chinese on this question. But with Russia being there, yes, we will look at common strategies for battling the pandemic. The vaccines, India has promised 5 billion vaccines for the entire Indo-Pacific region by end of next year. And this is what the whole world is awaiting. And we would want the Russians and the Chinese to also cooperate with us in this, because in the past the Chinese have tried to compete with us. And even the Russians, they have their own vaccines. So yes, I think it will be useful if we can do something jointly. Although the Quad, which is a kind of a rival group in which we also have a major membership, has its own vaccine plans and its own infrastructure plans. But for us, Russia is important, and we can never let go of the Russian relationship because it helps to keep the Chinese under check. So that's why we persist with this platform, even though there are parallel ones. There's Japan, America, India, J, there is a Quad. There are many other initiatives which are strategically very important, where we and China are antagonistic to each other. Okay. But in this forum, I think it's useful to also get to know directly from the Chinese what their broader intentions are. When they talk to us, they only talk about border dispute or about trade issues. But when they're in trilateral format, it helps our.
In this context, the Chinese have mentioned consensus building and mutual trust
in the broader region.
I said the Chinese have mentioned consensus building and mutual trust in the context of this meeting, just before the meeting is to take place.
Yeah, I mean, confidence building, Russia plays a subtle role, as I said. Even last year, at the peak of the LAC crisis and after Galwan, and in September, Dr. Jaishankar had a 5-point agreement with Wang Yi, the Chinese foreign minister, in Moscow, on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the RIC.
Yes.
So having these opportunities always help. I mean, for the Chinese, they want to restore the normal relations, they say, and all full-fledged relations, even without stepping back from the border, which is not acceptable to us. They have to restore the status quo ante of April-May 2020 and step back from their encroachments near the LAC. So I think Russians know that position. They have conveyed it clearly. And Russians often tell the Chinese that, look, we have a thing going with all three of us and under BRICS. Let's not ruin all of it by being very hard-headed on these positions. So in Doklam crisis of 2017 also, RIC and BRICS helped us to ultimately restore the status quo ante and push the Chinese back. So we would hope that confidence building happens in a way where we are willing to partake with the Chinese in all these broader initiatives, provided they respect our territorial integrity and respect also our sphere of interest and influence in the Indo-Pacific.
Certainly, certainly. So one can look at some positives to emerge, hopefully, from this particular meeting. We watch that space with you. Professor Chawla, thank you so much for joining us for the time being. All right, let's now move on to National Prime. Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act provides guarantee of at least 100 days of wage employment against the demand made by a household in a rural area. The MG Narega is a scheme which is demand driven. Now, during the current financial year, so far more than 240 crore person days have been generated according to the demand by the beneficiaries. Fund release towards wage and material is a continuous process. There's been an increase of more than 18% of funds allocation for the current financial year in comparison to the previous financial year as budget estimates. During the current financial year, so far more than 68,568 crore rupees in funds have been released for the implementation of the scheme in states and union territories. Also, whenever additional funds are required, the Ministry of Finance is requested to provide the funds. Recently, the Ministry of Finance allocated additional funds of 10,000 crore rupees for MG Narega as an interim measure. Further allocation may be made upon assessment of demand during the revised estimate stage. That's what the government has said. Now, National Milk Day was organized in Anand district of Gujarat. Union Minister for Animal Husbandry and Dairying, Purushottam Rupala, and Union Minister of State for Animal Husbandry and Dairying, Dr. L. Murugan, graced the event with their presence. Union Minister Purushottam Rupala also launched the portal of Breed Multiplication Scheme. The minister also felicitated farmers for commendable work in the field of animal husbandry. During the event, an IVF lab was also unveiled. Union Minister of State for Animal Husbandry, Dr. L. Murugan, informed that the government has launched various schemes aiming to increase milk production in the country.
Our government has initiated several policy initiatives in the field of animal husbandry and dairying under Atmanirbhar Bharat. We recently launched the Rashtriya Gokul Mission. It invests 54,000 crore in this sector It is the largest investment in this sector under the dynamic leadership of our Shri Narendra Modi ji.
Let's now talk about the COVID-19 situation in the country. Well, India continues to register significantly high recoveries as far as COVID-19 is concerned. If you take out the vaccination campaign in the country, it has witnessed a total of 9,868 recoveries in the last 24 hours, taking the national daily tally to reach 3,39,77,830. With this, India's recovery rate stands at 98.33%, which is highest since March 2020. India's active cases account for less than 1% of total cases, that is currently at 0.32%, which is the lowest since again March 2020. India reported 10,594 new cases of COVID-19 during the last 24 hours. The country's daily positivity rate remains less than 2% for the last 53 days. So far, India has a total of 1,10,133 cases of the disease. And now let's also take a quick look at what's making news across the globe as well. Now, 6-member Indian parliamentary delegation will attend the Inter-Parliamentary Union to be held in Madrid in Spain starting today. The assembly could continue till the 30th of November. The delegation is led by Lok Sabha MP Bhartrhari Mahtab. The delegation comprises Lok Sabha MPs Dr. Sanjay Jaiswal, Poonamben Madam, Vishnu Dayal Ram, Diya Kumari and Rajya Sabha MP Sasmit Patra. During the assembly, a general debate will be held on the theme Contemporary Challenges to Democracy, Overcoming Division and Building Community. India is the present chair of BRICS, and the Parliament of India will host the 7th BRICS Parliamentary Forum on the sidelines of the assembly. The themed role of BRICS parliaments in ensuring equitable and inclusive post-pandemic economic recovery will be discussed by the delegates from BRICS parliaments. The Indian delegation will also attend the Asian Parliamentary Assembly, that's the APA, coordinating meeting and inaugural meeting of the Parliamentary Network of the Non-Aligned Movement. The United Kingdom registered the staggering spike in the number of COVID-19 cases, becoming Europe's worst hit country from the disease. The UK has decided to temporarily suspend flights from 6 South African countries after South Africa detected a new COVID-19 variant with a large number of mutations. These countries include South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Lesotho and Eswatini. Furthermore, Britons returning from these countries would have to undergo a mandatory quarantine. UK's Health Secretary Sajid Javid said that the new variant, which South Africa attributed to a surge in cases and had also been detected in travellers from the countries of Botswana and Hong Kong, had not been found so far in Britain. The country has more than 1,21,000 cases of COVID-19, with fatalities crossing 1,44,000. And time now to get you some quick sports updates as well. Well, first, the latest from the ongoing test match between India and, of course, New Zealand. And for all those updates, we've got Samriddhi with us.
Well, thank you, Gautam, and welcome to Sports Prime. Like you said, first up news from the ongoing test match between India and New Zealand. Pace spearhead Tim Southee brought New Zealand back in the game with a brilliant 5-wicket haul on day 2 of the Kanpur test. Now for India, Shreyas Iyer has slammed a sublime century on his test debut to lead India's fight back. Iyer was dismissed on 105 of 171 balls as his innings was laced with 13 fours and 2 sixes. Ravindra Jadeja failed to add anything to his overnight score and was the first batter to return to the pavilion on day 2. Wicketkeeper Wriddhiman Saha also failed to make an impact on his return to India's playing and was dismissed on just 1. Akshar Patel was the 5th victim of Southee as he completed his 15th fifer in the Test cricket. Now India ended their first innings on 345. New Zealand started their innings on a positive note. Currently, New Zealand are batting on 86 without any losses. And Pat Cummins has been confirmed as Australia's new men's test captain, replacing Tim Paine after his resignation last week. Now, Cummins, who previously served as the vice captain, will be deputised by Steve Smith, and he is the first specialist fast bowler to captain Australia's men's test side since Ray Lindwall was served the role in one match in 1956. Medium pace all-rounders Monty Noble and Jack Ryder captained the side in the early 1900s. Speaking on this, Cummins said that he is honoured to accept this role ahead of what will be a massive Ashes summer, and also hopes to provide the same leadership that Tim Paine has given the group in the past few years. And in the latest ranking table released by the International Cricket Council, Sri Lanka is sitting on first position with 12 points, whereas India is now placed at the second position with 26 points. While the percentage of Sri Lanka is 100%, India's percentage is currently 54.17%, and Pakistan is third on the table, West Indies the fourth, and England is currently at the fifth spot in the latest ICC World Test Championship table. Now, be it any cricket match between India and Pakistan on any ground, the thrill always remains at its peak. Now, similar scene was witnessed during the T20 Cricket World Cup played in the UAE, where tickets for the match played on October 24th between India and Pakistan were completely sold out, and now the ICC has in fact confirmed that it has become the most watched match in the T20 International's history. According to the ICC, the T20 World Cup has been the biggest cricket tournament ever to be held in the UAE and in Oman. The event broke viewership records in several regions, and this includes the record of television reach of 167 million. Although the team under the captaincy of Virat Kohli won 3 matches in a row, however, lost its opening match against Team Pakistan and bowed out on a disappointing note. Despite India's early exit from the tournament, the total TV viewership consumption for the entire tournament in the country was recorded, in fact, at 112 billion minutes, as confirmed by the ICC. So that's all we have for you in Sports Prime for now. Back to you, Gautam.
Thank you, Samriddhi. And that's all we have for the moment in Midday Prime as well. But the latest will continue, as always, on DD India. For all the latest, do stay tuned.